So I'm going to tell you about engaging with DCU through the Insight SFI Research Center for Data Analytics, because that's what I know about it. Insight is one of Europe's largest data analytics research centers, and it's concerned with empowering citizens and creating smarter and better societies through generating new knowledge and applying data science concepts. The mission and leadership of Insight is driven by excellence. It is a world-class research center, and it is industry informed. Its commercialization and impact are first-class citizens in Insight. It's not all about just producing research papers and producing PhD students. It's impact and changing the world, and in particular, setting the discourse nationally and internationally around data science is part and parcel of what being part of Insight is all about, and what you get when you contribute and participate with and interact with Insight. We also see it as our duty to educate the Irish public, European citizens, and global citizens about the importance of data science and how it can affect their lives, how it does affect their lives, and how it can be used in a very beneficial way, but also to warn people about how it can be used maybe in ways that are not so that are not what we would desire, right? So that is what Insight is about, essentially. Now, in terms of, because as I said, it's one of Europe's most significant data science research centers, and as a result, it's got a footprint in every research active institute in the country, almost. There's 4 co-lead universities. It's got real critical mass. There's at least 450, maybe 500 plus active researchers, everything from professors to PhD students to research assistants actively engaged in data science. And the output then is correspondingly significant, with a huge footprint in terms of academic papers, research awards and grants, but of course, in terms of industry collaborations and spin-outs and licensed technology, Insight is a really significant player. In fact, something like 1 in 8 of the technologies licensed by the higher education institutions of Ireland come out of Insight. Now, it's underpinned by expertise, world-class expertise, world-class academics working in a range of areas that span the whole breadth of data science, from fundamentals in mathematics and statistics to pragmatic data engineering and societal sort of impacts. So while the core research program is driven by data analytics and looking at challenges around sensing data, feeding back data, making decisions on data, dealing with heterogeneous data sources, we ensconce this in the context of how is data science affecting society? Is it trustworthy? Is it ethical? How do we understand it? How as a society do we deal with the implications of data science? So where we apply this sort of picture is in certain domains within which we have been able to demonstrate excellence. So these are strategically chosen domains such as health and human performance, enterprise and services, sustainability and operations, how data science can affect that, and smart communities and smart societies. These are the main expertise areas where we find, I suppose, the best application of our knowledge, our expertise, hand in hand with industry involvement. So what Insight can bring businesses is access on your doorstep to a world-class center in data science, and access to domain specialists who are genuinely contributing to the state of the art in this area, and who have, as well as a national network of expertise, have international networks of expertise that can be drawn upon to solve your problem, hand in hand with you. We have technologies and systems that can do things better, faster, and cheaper, and we've access to the very cutting edge technologies because in many cases we're developing them ourselves. We are the creator of those technologies. We've dedicated scientists that are on industry relevant timescales, and we do that by virtue of having a wonderful operations team who had an interface between the traditional academic world that you might have known in the past, and we know the fast changing, time sensitive world that industry operates in. So the operations team are that interface that create projects out of ideas and turn them into something that can be measured and delivered and contractualized. So that's the sort of professionalism in terms of industry engagement that Insight brings, and the other research centers around the country do something similar, but we're particularly good at that, I would think. So let's look at some examples. In my own research, I'm concerned with the application of machine learning and AI to understanding human health, performance, and decision-making outside the lab in the real world, where you are now, not in a lab in DCU behind me here. Okay, that's what I'm interested in doing. And so I work with companies who share a similar interest, and that can be extremely broad, both in terms of the type of work and the scale of engagement. And I'll give you a number of examples now. So first little example, I say little because it started off as just a conversation with somebody I met. And this is a company called Bowsy Films. They're a wonderful film production company, and they're very well known for their special effects. And they asked me, could we help them apply artificial intelligence, particularly technologies they'd heard of, such as deep fake technologies and so on, to create new and special effects that will be interesting for some of the films that they're producing and they're creating and directing. So through an Enterprise Ireland mechanism called innovation vouchers, which are a very are a very affordable way to get involved with a knowledge provider, we were able to engage with them and show them how deep learning technologies would allow them to create some really cutting edge special effects that they're now able to use in the latest film they're making, which is pretty extraordinary what we were able to do. I'd love to tell you about it, but I think you should you should watch that movie when it's going to go on in a year's time. I might be able to send a link to anyone who's interested in this, but if you look it up, Bogsy Films on Facebook or something, you'll see there'll be some information about that film. But anyway, that was a lovely engagement because it was not an enormous outlay for the company to get involved. In fact, Enterprise Ireland supported it, and it's now led to further conversations. Now let's look at a slightly longer time scale and maybe a different area. Health Beacon. Health Beacon are a wonderful Irish startup. I guess they might even be on the startup at this point. They're a really successful Irish company that works in the connected health space. So they have a technology that allows them to monitor a patient's engagement with their medication. So using IoT technology and some AI, they're able to kind of capture data around the patient's use of the medication. They came to us, and through an Enterprise Ireland Innovation Partnership, we have an 18-month, 24-month project in which we, together with them, have been able to co-create a research agenda and research questions, which has led to the development of algorithms and technologies that allows them to predict their patients' behavior in the future. And for Health Beacon, they can productize that and integrate it into their process to create new products, new services, new value adds on top of the device that they're already offering. So that and again, like every example I think I've been giving you, each of these engagements has led to further subsequent engagements because it's been a win-win for everybody concerned. So next to a project with a company called Transpoco. And this is an interesting project because now we're talking about a longer time scale again. We're talking about 3 to 4 years of a research program that's truly cutting edge, and that's looking to look at next generation fleet management technologies that acknowledge a world in which we have driverless cars and remote operators who are supervising potentially large fleets of such vehicles. So Transpoco are a company that find themselves currently where they're managing fleets of vehicles that are driven by, human beings, right? This is the everyday world we all know. They're still using cutting edge technologies such as IoT and sophisticated algorithms to manage such fleets, but they know in 10 years' time, the world will look quite different. So they're looking down the road. They're looking at technologies that will enable them to compete in a very disruptive environment, or a very disrupted environment, and in which state-of-the-art algorithms, particularly AI-driven technologies, which operate in tandem with human operators, will be really critical in order to compete in a very interconnected world. So it's a very exciting project. It's a 4-year engagement, as I said. So this is the type of project that one can build up to through maybe some of the previous steps I've said, or for certain companies, it's something they want to do straight away, to leap in and look at cutting edge research that would be relevant to their company maybe 5 years from now. And this is a project that I believe is a good template for some of the I suppose some of the most innovative interactions we've had, so I'm very excited about this. And in this project, in case you're interested, we're looking at developing kind of new human computer interfaces that use kind of sensing technologies to I suppose gauge to what degree an operator is able to intervene in certain driving situations across a fleet of vehicles. So, okay, so we looked at kind of projects or interactions of various scale and commitment. Looking at I suppose, the dissemination of our skills or our expertise in a completely different way that can be used in the service of industry, we also develop platforms and tools. So one particular software service we're now offering is a platform that my team have been developing called Athena CX. So Athena CX is a solution for anybody out there that is looking to develop usually mobile apps with sensors that can be used for data collection from large groups of people over long periods of time. So rather than having to develop this sort of software through I suppose, a deep engineering team, we've developed a no-code solution, a software as a service, that allows your researchers or your employees to rapidly design and deploy and experiment with mobile apps for this sort of data collection sort of activity. And it also, so some of the innovations we bring into it that are now then readily available to users of the platform are integration with, say, wearable devices such as perhaps a Fitbit, which I'm using, which can be used to trigger questions or collect context on surveys, to, on the back end, the use of AI for assessing data quality or behavioral modeling or profiling, or simply for fraud detection or quality assurance in the data stored. So this is an example of a particular offering we have, and there are several others within Insight that might be of interest to you, and they don't require a deep engagement. They're simply a software license that can be picked up, immediately if necessary. So I think I'll leave it there for now. I'll be available for a Q&A session, and I am interested in meeting anybody who wants to talk more about perhaps some of the specific projects I mentioned, or the sort of, I suppose, expertise we have in my own team. But I'm even more interested in talking about the expertise we have in Insight and in DCU, and I can point people to various other academics who are very skilled at what they do and that might serve a need that you have. So thank you.